everyone. Welcome back to Ignite You. I am so excited today to be having a special guest. Her name is Kristen. She is also known as the Guided Travels on Instagram. And so I'm just excited about having an interview with you today. I know that you have a host of different things that you do, such as drawing, you enjoy traveling, you enjoy videography, photography, you wear many hats.
I do many things.
Many things, but that's great, to have that creativity flowing and it all just coincides with one another,
Yeah.
So I'm just happy to have you on Ignite
Yes,
You.
thanks for having me.
Yes. And so today is not going to be long, guys, but it will be very informative. So you may want to take a notepad and jot down everything that she mentions today, because it's definitely a lot of tips and tricks that you may want to know in the future for your traveling plans. So be prepared for that. And also to just sit and relax with us while we have a girls chat. The guys, we kick them out. And so
trying to bring value while also like being chill and
still want to bring value, but also want to enjoy a good conversation about just life in general. So I want to dive right in.
Okay.
So, like I mentioned earlier, you're a travel creator, and you as well do travel guides as well. But just before we get into all of that, can you explain what inspired you to wake up one day and just pack your bags and not go on a 1 nor 2 month, but 7-month trip? And you just said, let me go and explore. Can you explain to us about that?
Okay, I will give you the medium story.
Yes.
So it was in 2023. I went on a trip to the Philippines and I went for a month. That was my first backpacking trip. I went with my friend and business partner, Annalie, and that was the first time that I really experienced like what it's like to travel and be like immersed in like culture and like experience all of that stuff and like realize like life doesn't matter about the materialistic things. It matters about the experiences and like the life that you're actually living. And it was time for me to come home and I was like, I don't want to come home. But the issue with that was that I was in a marriage and you can't just not come home. And so it prompted a lot of questions of like, okay, the life that I want to live, how does this correlate with the life that I have at home? Because I was living 2 different lives at that point. And me and my ex, we had a good conversation. Like, we got on the same page about, like, realistically, like, because there's a topic of kids. There's a topic of everything. And we had, like, a 10-year age gap. So,
some differences right there. But it was really good to see that you guys had a conversation. It was a mutual agreement. And then you were able to part ways peacefully, from what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Well, at the time, it was, like, it's a stressful thing for anyone. Now we're in a good place. I feel like if I needed something or if I even wanted to hang out, like we could do that like civilly and stuff. And so that's cool.
That's so good.
But at the time I was like, these are my thoughts. And I was like, there was nothing wrong with the relationship. Like he wasn't abusive. He wasn't, he was a great person. He's just not my person.
Right.
And there's a difference. And I was like, if I don't just leave, I'm going to just roll back into each day just being, just like normal life and comfortable.
Yes.
And I remember there is this company that I do some things with called World Packers. And they were like, hey, if you make us a video, we'll pay you X amount of money. And we'll give you a membership to our account. And they had sent me this offer like months ago. And I turned it down. And when all this is happening, I was like, okay, if I did leave, how could I travel? And I was like, well, I could save money by using World Packers because it's like a volunteer state exchange. And I was like, wait, they did tell me that they wanted to work together. And I was like, I tried to negotiate one more time.
Right.
And they were like, this is firm on the price, like for a first time partnership. I said, okay, I'll take it.
Take it and run with it.
Because I was like, at that point, I've committed to something that requires me to have a deadline to complete something. And I need to fulfill this partnership.
Right.
So I said, okay. So I stayed up. I remember I stayed up till 5 a.m. I went through 30 pages of experiences across their entire platform. I was like, I don't care where the destination is. What aligns most with me? And I came across this one in Colombia.
Wow.
And it was a motorbike tour company called Adrenaline Addicts. And the guy was he sounded super chill. He was like,
Right.
you come and you just create social media content for us and you'll have a place to stay, whatever. And it was like a 2-week thing. And I was like, okay. I applied and he just sounded like cool. It aligned. And I was like, okay, I'm going to Colombia. And I looked up flights. I did all my flight hacking point search and stuff. And I said, okay, I can do this. I don't even have to pay for the flight. I have a free place to stay, whatever. So I was like, I'm going to start in Colombia. And I booked a one-way ticket.
Oh my God.
And then I get to the airport and they're like, you can't buy a one-way ticket to Colombia. You have to show that you're departure.
Really?
And so then I was in the airplane and I was in the airport and they're like, I was the last one. They're like, you have to buy a ticket within the next 5 minutes before the gate closes, or you're not getting on the plane.
Oh my God.
So I went and I looked. I was like, okay, I guess a month in Colombia is cool. So I was like, a month from now, what's the cheapest flight out of here? And it was Miami. And I said,
oh wow.
okay, I'm gonna go to Miami. Book. It was like $90.
That easy. Not easy, but it was that simple for you to just say, okay, although this was a challenge, let me find a solution.
Yeah, it's like, that's the thing I love about solo traveling is I'm by myself.
Right.
I don't have someone, like, if we were by each other, like, what do you want to do? What do you think we should do?
You just
it's like, make a decision,
Yes.
solve it. Everything is like figure outable.
Figure it out.
But like, you just have to like be willing to just go and do it. And like, you have to be sure of yourself. Like, okay, is this a logical decision? It makes sense because of this.
Right.
Okay, do it.
I want to touch a little bit about that. How do you know when something is the right decision, or what is your take on following your instinct, but also this is practical? How do you decipher if it's something you really want to do, or if it's something you need to do to get to the next level in your career?
If I'm thinking in terms of like the flight situation, I knew, okay, because I lead group trips as well.
Right,
So
okay.
we had one in Switzerland. I'm like, okay, I know I need to be in Switzerland, which is Europe. So let me, like, somehow this needs to make sense for me getting there. But there's
right.
no good flights to go from South America to Europe.
Right.
So I was like, if I can reposition myself in the States, then that would work. So I said, okay, Miami has a big airport. So I was like, that kind of makes sense. And then I'll figure it out once I'm in Miami, how I'm getting to Europe. So
that is not a normal gift. I'm telling you now, that is special what you have, because most people, I can't speak for all, but I can say majority of people that travel like to just have it all laid out, the itinerary, everything's structured. And then when something goes wrong, it's kind of like, okay, I'm panicking. But you have that tenacity to just keep going. And I want to say I admire that about you.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
But I honestly, like, I'm a very indecisive person.
Me too.
But I can be decisive when I have to.
Right, okay, when it's necessary.
But it was like, usually my trips before this, it's like, okay, I have 1 week. I need to maximize my time there. For this, I was like, it's a slow travel thing. I don't know how long I'm staying in these destinations. I could find a place that I love and I can stay there for 3 months technically if I want to.
Oh my God.
So I was like, don't be hard on yourself.
Right.
Like, I knew going into this, like, things go wrong. It's going to happen.
You knew it head on. That's so good.
Yeah.
That you didn't have that expectation that everything would just be flowers and roses, that challenges come in every form, every shape and form with life, but you just always find ways to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So yeah, that was...
Wow, that's an experience in itself, you know?
And it's like, things happen, like, when you try to put too much structure into something, you're setting yourself up for expectations.
That's right.
You're setting yourself up for no spontaneous moments.
Right.
I was like, if I'm going to a place, say I'm going to an island or something. I'm going to Hawaii, okay?
Okay.
So what I would do is, what are the main things that are like non-negotiable? I want to come and experience these
In
things.
Hawaii, yes.
Maybe it's like 3 or 4 things, main things. So I'm going to find ways to put those in the itinerary, but I leave everything else open.
I love that.
And so it's like,
just for an adventure.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
our lives are already structured enough, so going on a vacation or just like what you said, you leave room for adventure,
Yeah.
which is so good.
And it's
Aw.
like less stress too.
Yeah, less stress. I might try that.
I mean, I still get stressed sometimes. Don't get me
Right,
wrong.
but it's just to
yeah.
have that margin in your schedule where anything can happen, or I can sleep in late.
Yeah.
It's not all structured. I love that. Can you mention briefly like all of the places, if you remember right off the hand, that you visited?
For the 7-month trip.
Just in general.
Ooh.
No, you don't even have to say it all, but just the main highlight. I guess the places that really stuck out to you the most.
Okay. So I'll say, because they're still fresh on my mind, I'll say the ones that I went to in the 7 months, and then I'll say the ones that that stood out to me while traveling. So for the 7-month trip, I started in Colombia, then I went to Miami, then I went to Portugal, then I went to 2 islands that are territories of Portugal, which is the Azores, which is beautiful. Then I went to Madeira, also beautiful. I went back to Portugal, in the south of Portugal, called the Algarve. Then I went to Germany. I only stayed for 3 days to stay with a girl that I met, because it was like getting me to the next place. And then I went to Switzerland. Then I went to Albania.
Wow.
Then I went to Slovenia. And then Turkey. And then aside from that, trips that have really stood out to me, the Philippines. The Philippines changed my life.
Wow. Touch on that. Like how
Well, that's because it's like that's where I had all these realizations about like, what does this big fancy house that I just built even matter when there's people in these bamboo shacks that are like the happiest, nicest people I've ever met.
Wow, that culture, it just really shifted your mindset.
Yeah, I had like I woke up. I woke up.
An awakening.
Yes.
Wow.
And then I went to New Zealand. New Zealand also changed my life. Like looking back at it, I just didn't realize at the time. And then Mexico is really cool. If you get past like the Cancun and Isla Mujeres is like the island everyone goes to. They had an area. I'm gonna slaughter this word.
It's okay.
But it's spelled like Valladolid, but it's like Valladolid or something like that. The cenotes over there, which is like an underground pool of water. Y'all,
I just constantly look at videos like I'm getting one day. Yes. Like I just need to be there. It's beautiful.
So this area that I'm talking about is like known for it. And they have cenotes where you go down into like this tunnel, like spiral staircase. You walk in and it opens up, and there's like almost like an underground lake with like the cenote part where it's like the opening. Into the sky or whatever. But there's like kayaks in there. Like they bring kayaks or like they'll do all these different things. Or they'll have like, they have the bats in some, and then they have some where it's like it's deep, like it might be 80 meters deep or something, and you can see straight, like a light beam will come through. It just looks like another world. So that's really cool. Where else? Where have I been? I did a backpacking trip when I was 18, when I got out of high school, and I was like, this is gonna be my backpacking trip. And I went with an ex, and like I didn't know what I was doing at the time, so like that trip I went to some cool places, but I didn't know what I was doing. So I don't feel like I don't count that.
Yeah, that's okay.
But I also went to Italy during the 7th-month trip. That was cool too.
Now, what was your highlights of Italy's trip? Because that's a destination that everyone's, a lot of people are striving to go and visit. What was one of the highlights there for you?
So Italy was one of our group trips. Okay. And so what we did is the focus was the Dolomites, which is like the mountain range in like North Italy. It's beautiful. And so we stayed, like we flew into Venice and we flew out of Venice. So it was like, Venice is one of the only places I think that I've been in the world where it is so touristy and there's a lot of people, but it's worth going to, and I'll go back anytime. It's just unique.
You just have to experience.
Yeah, 'cause there's a ton of people, sure, but it's one of those places, like where else in the world do you have all these canals and it's just like the Italian vibe, and you're like just walking around. There's no cars, like you get around by boat or you walk. And it's like you have the city vibe, but it's like also that touch of like, the nature, because I guess the water.
Right.
It's just really nice.
Oh, and I know
yeah.
you mentioned we went on the trip. So can you touch on like how you got connected with another group of travelers and how y'all became like a community now?
Are you talking about the group trips?
Yes, the group
Okay.
trips.
So I went on a group trip in, I think it was 2022, with my now business partner, Anna Lee. So she hosted a group trip in Greece. And I remember I had just followed her like maybe a month prior on Instagram. I don't know anything about this girl.
Right.
Something possessed me. I woke up at 6 in the morning and I get on Instagram and I see her promoting this group trip. And I was like, I'm not going. I know that like the price of this trip, I don't remember how much it was, like maybe $2,700.
Right.
I was like, I know that I can plan a week in Greece for cheaper. You can.
Yes.
But then I started to think about it. Okay, every time I see this girl's page, it's everything that I want to do. Like, I would love to do what she's doing. And it was like teaching about content creation, and it was just like just traveling with other people like that, have a similar mindset as you. And so I was like, I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna book it. And so I said, if I book this, then I have to go.
Then
so,
yes, there's no question.
Yeah,
Just
I didn't even look at flights yet. I said, okay. It was just a deposit that you have to pay, so it's like less commitment.
Right.
And I said, okay, and I paid it. And then that was that. I said, okay, I'm going to Greece.
Scared or not, I'm going.
I'm going to Greece. Like, this is what I want to do. I'm gonna make it happen. So I did that. And I ended up using travel points. I got a free, so my flight was free. Anyway, so I go on this trip and I stay with these group of girls. We were all girls. And that was the first time that I had been able to like use my camera with people who were also trying to like use theirs. So you don't feel bad about stopping and everything else.
Right.
First time I realized I'm not crazy for thinking the way that I think, because Lafayette, Louisiana, you get it.
Yes, I know. It's just like whenever you have a mindset to create, and it's like you have a conversation, sometimes it's hard when someone's not in that industry or in that field to understand your lingo or where you're trying to go, or what you mean. So when you find your people, it's exciting. It's electrifying.
Yeah.
So explain about that some more.
Yeah, and so I still talk to all the girls, but that trip just made me realize, okay, this is what I want to do. I love doing this. And it just gave me the space to like, have that realization. And so after, like, towards the end of the trip, I remember we're sitting there at our goodbye dinner, and Annalie says, I think I want to make this a business. And I was like, I would love to do like, lead my own group trips.
Right.
And it was this topic that came up like maybe 2 months later, and she was going to try to do something where you work with creators and like you travel with them. And I was like, I don't think that I want this to be a one-off trip. I think that if I do this, I want it to be a continuous thing.
Yes.
So then she was like, okay, let's like go into business. And I was like, okay, because she could see the way that I was working, and like we knew that if you can travel with someone, that's more important than knowing if you can live with them. First of all,
No, seriously.
So we knew we're compatible to travel together, and we just get each other.
You understand. And so for the business side, you guys have already experienced the hard parts of travel. And so you can help with, like, you have a guide and just tips for people to know and what to avoid and what to look forward to. So it kind of gets, it saves us from doing all the hard work, which is already stressful in itself, planning the trip. Imagine with a family too. Like, for instance, me and my kids and then my husband. So we're trying to go different places, but I would love to go on a site where I can just see what to avoid, what to look out for, but also good experiences for couples, but also kids. So I love that you guys have come together with your business and are just going forward with it.
Well, so what we're doing is more like it's almost like themed. So we started out as, because we're both content creators,
right?
It started out as for content creators by content creators.
Okay.
So we were going to teach people like videography and photography and how to work with brands and everything, but while being in the most beautiful destinations.
Right.
But our business is called Bucket List Retreats. So a lot of people were coming for bucket list experiences. And so we were like, how about let's just make this like focus on prioritizing the just experience of like going and traveling to these places with people. So Now our trips, we kind of remove the content aspect. Like we're willing to share it for free, and we have courses we give to people if they want to learn.
Right.
But the focus of the trip is like, let's just go and have like the best week of your life.
Right.
And so
an experience. Oh, I love it.
So now it's like, it's really cool because like some people come because people want to travel, but they don't have friends that are as serious about it as them, or they have people that flake on them, or just, all the trips that never leave the group chat.
Right. Let's talk about that. How
Yeah.
we plan these trips and it never leaves the group
It
chat.
never leaves the group chat. I'm like, I want to go to Hawaii. Everyone's like, okay, let's go. And you did all the research and you're just waiting to press book. And they're like, oh, I need to check to see if I can get off of work. And then blah, blah. And then all of a sudden 3 months go by and it's like, whatever happened to that trip?
Nothing.
Ghost.
You ain't ghost on me.
Yeah. So what I started doing is for my solo trips and stuff, I started doing, okay, where do I want to go?
Right.
I'm going to book all my stuff and I'm going to send it to my friends and I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to this place from these dates. You're more than welcome to come. I haven't booked accommodation yet. So if you decide to come, then we can figure that out. Or you can always book your own thing. And then like most of it's usually refundable before a certain date. So you can still secure your own stuff. But I started doing that. Now I don't have to like wait around for days at work for other people. And so it's like, either you're coming or you're not. I'm going. I'm going. Are you coming?
I love it.
Yeah.
Yes. So you're not letting anything hold you back.
No.
Which is important, especially with the career path that you've chosen now. Yeah. You have no time to waste.
I feel like I've been waiting on people my whole life.
Oh.
With everything. Whether it's, before all of this, I used to do modeling stuff.
Right.
And so it was like, okay, the only way that I can model and take pictures is if I'm waiting for the photographer. I need a photographer.
Right.
So I'm always waiting for someone. So then that's how I got into like
taking your own.
All of this. Yeah. Now I do stuff behind the camera. If I want to make something happen, okay, if no one's, it's easier when there's someone to help you. But I can make it happen by myself.
You can make it happen. Oh, yeah. I love that. Now, I can definitely
do it,
relate to that. Now, when it comes to travel, not so much, but when it comes to getting things done, just like starting this podcast, I had every excuse. I was like, I'm not a podcast girl. Like, this is not it. But I had a realization that, like you said, no one's going to do it for you. And the ideas that you have in your head have to get out somehow. Yeah. And if it doesn't look perfect, oh well. If you don't sound as, I don't know, professional as other podcast hosts, oh well. Like, just do it and you'll learn as you go. And so far, so good. So far, it's been a great experience. Thank you. Yeah. It's been a great experience. And I'm just looking forward to continuously give people a platform to describe and explain their business, their passion. Yeah. And you could just see you light up, as you talk about travel. So I know this is your baby, and it's, for me, I just enjoy igniting others, like letting you know, hey, you have a flame, let's just keep it going. So how do you keep that fire burning when you are discouraged sometimes, or you're feeling like, I really don't feel like it, but what keeps that fire ignited? Like, what keeps you going?
I would say that there's just always been something, like, the baseline of it all is there's always been something inside of me, like, that I found so much comfort in knowing that I don't know, like, I do all the things. I don't know what the thing is, and I don't know when it will happen, but I know I'm going to be successful.
Right.
And I ride on that feeling of like, okay, this is hard, but this is just like a season of it, and I'm going to get through it, and I'm going to figure it out, because in the end, it's going to work out. Like, I know I'm going to be successful. Right. So for whatever, success is different for everyone.
That's
what
right.
that means.
That's
but
right.
I'm going to get there at some point. Aside from that, on days where I'm just like not feeling it, what I keep in the back of my mind is you don't just have motivation.
No.
Motivation follows action. So if you're like, I want to get in shape, or I want to travel, or I want to do this, I want to do a podcast, literally get up and do it. Just get up and do it. It's that easy. When you don't want to go to the gym, you could like not be feeling it. You walk in through the gym doors, you're there. You did the hardest part.
You did the hardest part. You came.
You showed up.
Now you have to just get on something and do it. Just sweat a little bit. Just get something moving. But that's so true. Yeah. Just action. Motivation is nothing without action. Yeah.
And I always say, like, the biggest thing is do it scared. Just do it scared. Like,
I
I
live
don't
on
know.
that. No,
I don't know what
seriously,
I'm doing.
I'm
I'm figuring
always
it out.
scared. Like, I'm always scared, but I'm doing it because I know that it's a purpose beyond me, and I don't want to be selfish. I don't want to live this life and not be remembered by someone that helped, other people or even my children. I'm doing this to pave the way for them to see that mama had a dream and she went after
Yes.
it. And when I look at mom, she's always on a go or always helping, but she's including me. So I do include my kids sometimes when it comes to photo shoots or, when I'm doing podcasts, I just have them in the room or something.
Yeah.
Or when I'm reading books to kids, I have them come and sell the books and be a part of my journey
Yeah.
because I want it to be a family effort with my husband backing me up, So I'm doing this for them.
Yeah.
But also in return, it's helping others.
Yeah. So like it's just everyone is like growing and like being a part of it, and that's really good for them to see too. Like to be surrounded by that, because you are what you surround yourself with.
That's right.
Like if they see you constantly chasing a dream or something, then naturally their instinct is going to be,
let me see what I can do.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
daughter's like, I'm going to be an astronaut. Just
Yeah.
my son, he's wanting to write books. And so it's different
Exactly.
things that
Yeah.
are happening because I decided to ignite. Just,
Yes. Yeah.
just how I was telling you the other day, like how this all came about. And I know, like you said, you're successful. I do too, but it's like, how am I going to get there if I'm not consistent? So how do you stay consistent? Like you said, you just tell yourself, I'm going to do it.
I mean, I know that that's what I need to do. Now, do I always do it is another
No.
story.
But you're showing up. You're
Yeah.
on these trips. You're
So-
constantly moving,
This is what I say. I think it's a fact. Like where the focus goes, the energy flows.
Ooh.
So if you I just say 1% better every day. So like
That's right.
with my retreat business, it was like, okay, I have this giant list of to-do lists. It never ends.
It's never ending.
You do one thing and you add two. So it's like, it just keeps going. And I was like, okay, as long as I'm getting 1% better every day, I'm working on something all the time towards it. It doesn't matter how fast you're going, just do something.
Right.
So even if that's answering emails and that's all you accomplish, you still accomplish something. Even though you're not moving mountains,
Right.
So I just, you go through ruts. Sometimes things, maybe you just need to breathe. Maybe it's just that easy,
Yeah.
But I just try to tell myself, remind myself, don't be so hard on yourself.
Right.
It's going to happen eventually. It's going to make sense eventually. You know that this is what you're supposed to be doing. You just have to be consistent because, I think I would love for someone to prove me wrong. That if you do something, work towards something every day for even 30 days, there is no way that you fail at that thing or you are not, more successful towards that thing, or you're going to know a lot more than you knew when you first started.
That's right.
You just have to do it.
That's so true.
Yeah. But it's also trying to have routines and healthy habits and the people you surround yourself with.
Oh, that's a big plus.
If you're surrounded by people who have no fire for wanting more out of life and they're okay with just, sitting at home, that's fine. But
right.
that's not how I want to live. And if
Right.
I'm with those people, we're going to just chill all day.
Right.
But if I'm with people that are we have these meetings here at Cameron's studio.
Yes.
And we're just ideas.
Bouncing off of each other.
I leave with new ideas,
Right. And then the ideas turn into action because it's as soon as we mention something, it's going. The next day we're getting started. So it's just beautiful to see. It's not just ideas, but it's the action with it.
Yeah. Just do something. Even if it's not something big. You just have to one step. I heard this analogy and I think that's what it's called, an analogy.
No, it's okay.
It's okay, imagine a paper towel roll. Okay. If you take one piece of that paper towel, one sheet off a day, you're not gonna notice the differences. Okay, say you do this for 30 days. Now, when you look at day 1 versus day 30, there's a massive change, but you don't notice those little changes every single day because they're so it's the little things that add up into one big thing. So
wow. just do it.
Just do the small things. Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, look, it looks like I had all these questions, but it's we already touched on so much, One thing I would say is, can you give tips to someone that is inspired to travel, but they don't they have fear. They don't really know what to look out for. What tips would you give them as far as like, okay, I'm just starting out. Let me jump and do this. How do you look out for scams or things that are not really legit, but then still able to succeed in your travel plans?
So I think it depends on, I feel like there's like kind of two routes with this. There's the vacationer.
Okay.
No, maybe there's three. There's the vacationer. You just want to go for like a week or two.
Okay.
Then there's the people who might maybe you take a gap year from school, or maybe you do like some kind of leave where you're putting a pause on work, but you still have that job when you return, but it's like a leave for like a year. People do that.
Oh, wow. No idea.
It's common in like Europe and stuff like
wow.
that. Yeah. And so they have that. So like you have a job that you're returning to, or maybe you're trying to be a digital nomad and you're trying to like work while you travel and like make that your lifestyle. I feel like there's totally different like things for each one.
Yes.
But if we're just talking about like the average traveler, maybe like a 2-week type of thing, I would say like there's ways to, save money, and like know all these like tips and tricks. I feel like the scammy side of things could come from like booking like a vacation package or something like that, because you don't really know like if you book from like I don't know, one of these third-party websites, like, or maybe Groupon, like they have stuff.
Yeah, they do.
I'm like, I don't know much about that, but it's like, how do you test the legitimacy of is that a word?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, how do you know?
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm like big on just like if it's a reputable company.
Okay.
If it's something that's through like maybe the hotel.
Okay, that's good.
If it's like a group trip business, like not even just mine, but they have others out there too, like Kentucky and EF Ultimate. Like there's other ones out there.
Right.
Things that are legit. Reddit is like my biggest.
Reddit.
Yes,
I've heard of that. Yes.
I live on Reddit for research, because if we talked about this yesterday. If something sounds too good to be true, then it probably is. So like if I look up, say there's this brand and there's this deal that sounds so good, I'm going to look up who the travel provider is. Yes? Okay. And I'm going to just type in on Google, blah, 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 Reddit. And I click on it. And if you see one word that says scam or something, I'm like, I don't even want to find out if it's a scam, because
just run.
Yeah. So stuff like that. But I don't know. It's like a lot of it's trusting your gut, and especially like during the travels, you want to like just kind of keep an eye out, like whether it's you're by yourself or you're with a friend.
Yes.
I was in Mexico, and I'm walking down the street, and I was with my ex at the time, and we had these bracelets that they give you that you have to enter the hotel. Okay. And so they're these white bracelets. Well, it's probably the only white bracelets on the island. It's a small island.
Okay.
You drive around the whole thing in 30 minutes.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah. And so you're walking down the streets, and there's people outside selling stuff, and this guy was like, "Oh my God, do you remember me? I was your waiter." And we're like, "No." And they're like, "We're your waiter from Privilege Lucius," or it was like the name of the hotel.
A hotel.
And we're like, "Oh, well, he knows where." Yeah, we did eat there. So, but really, they just look and they see. They know that white wristband is associated with that. So they have like these tactics to get you into the store. They try to be all personable and be so nice and all this stuff to get you in the store. Now they've already formed their relationship with you. You feel like you can trust them. Like they know how to like target emotion, and they know how to sell. And so like there's things like that. And obviously, like, tell me how I can walk into a place and you're selling something for $2,000, and then all of a sudden you're willing to do $1,000.
Yes.
So like now I'm curious on how legit this jewelry is.
Right.
Or, so it's like maybe more so as far as things that you're buying while traveling too.
Right.
Like maybe question that. And just anyone that's trying to sell you something, you just got to keep an eye out.
Right. And
you're paying a lot more than you should be. Probably.
And do you ever negotiate?
It scares me. I try because sometimes I try and then they're just like, no.
No, and with a straight face.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no. And then sometimes they're like kind of willing to go back and forth, but I break.
Oh,
But
you break. I'm a negotiator, girl.
I get
I'm like,
scared.
okay,
I'm like,
bye. I'm walking away.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, I could try. Sometimes it works. Sometimes no.
now, whenever I travel with Annalise, she's gold everything. Like her body reacts, whatever. So she only buys gold. So whenever we travel, she likes getting like little statement pieces from those places.
Yes.
So I'm able to kind of see how she does
she
some
does
things.
it. Yes.
And she'll walk in and she'll just offer like 50% off of if she knows it's like legit, it's actual gold, whatever.
I wonder how she detects. I would have to.
I think that it's like something with the stamping.
Okay.
And the gold. And like if you're walking into a gold place, everything's locked up. It's probably real. Because if it's just out on display, it's not real.
Right.
But
right.
it's not real.
That's a whole other thing, right?
Yeah. But for negotiating for that stuff, like I've realized, like you just go, you knock 50% off, and then you kind of like negotiate back and forth a little bit up from there. Sometimes people even like, you could offer only 30% of the value, so 70% off.
Okay.
So like you undercut so much because you know they're not going to accept it. But because you drop so low and now you're meeting them more in the middle.
Okay.
Then that's like a good way
strategy.
to do it. But
yeah, no, that's good. Like this is really helpful just because when people are traveling, we want to, get the most of that experience, and then it just depends on what we're buying too, like you said.
And it's also like dependent on the place that you travel to. So like for example in Turkey, you can walk into like a gift shop. You can walk into places that aren't just like little booths, and you can just say like, oh, are you willing to do this? One time I was at a place and I only had cash. I think I only had like $30, like was the value of what I had. And the thing I was trying to buy was like 45 or 50. And I was like, all I have is $30. And I was like, I'm sorry, like I can try to get cash later, but they know I'm probably not coming back.
Right.
And I literally only had that amount of money. I wasn't trying to negotiate, but they took it. They're like, oh, that's fine. And I was like,
okay.
So you're telling me I could have just paid $30? So then that makes you question. I was like, so then I Google like negotiating in Turkey, and it's like they negotiate everything.
Oh wow.
But if you go
you
somewhere,
just have to know where you're at. Wow.
Try to do that in Switzerland, they're gonna be like, bye. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It just depends on the place that you.
How does your family, like, do they benefit, like, from you going and traveling? I'm sure they love hearing your stories. I mean, I would just sit by you all day and just be like, okay, how was this trip? I mean.
I think, so they support, like, me traveling and everything. Now, when I left for the 7th-month trip and it was kind of, like, fast. It kind of happened fast. Like, as to them it happened fast because I didn't really tell them like what was happening in my life.
Right.
I was more so like, this is happening, I'm gonna get a divorce, and I bought a one-way ticket to Colombia, so that's that.
And they had to just
they're freaking out. They're scared for me.
Of course, that's how our families are.
My
when we're
dad,
doing something so risky and they call it spontaneous, but you're like, this is what I needed to do.
And I won't lie, like in the marriage that I was in, like I didn't have to worry about money. Like they knew that me being with him, I was financially stable. They don't have to ever worry about me. Like I'm taken care of.
Right.
So by me just stepping out and like giving all that up, and I'm leaving with essentially nothing. I own nothing now. I don't even have that much money because this wasn't a planned out thing.
Right.
Like I'm just leaving with what I have in my bank account,
you had.
which was probably $3,000.
Wow, but that's still, you know, going out the country for 7 months. Like, having to make that stretch.
Stretch and try to make money along the way. But
yes.
So they were scared. My mom cried a lot. She was like, I feel like you're never going to come back. Oh. My dad is like, what is wrong with you? Are you crazy?
Sounds like my dad is like the same way. But overall, we're covered. I mean, you're fine now, and look where you're at today.
Yeah, and it was like throughout the travels, like they could see like I made the right decision. Like I'm happy.
They
and so
can see
like
your joy. Yeah.
So they were like kind of eased at that point. And then my mom got an Instagram because when I travel, I post every day. I'll post on my stories like, you know what I'm up to. She's like, as long as I can see that you're okay and like you're happy, like it makes me feel better.
Feels so good.
So
she makes me feel good knowing that as a mama. Like, I would be worried about my baby too. But you turned out great, and
I'm alive.
Alive and well.
And then my dad is just like, he got to the point of like him saying just let me know if you find a good retirement spot for me. But he doesn't keep up with anything. He
Anything
doesn't have social media. And
Uh-huh.
I send him a video every now and then. He's like, where are you at in the world now? And I'm like,
Oh.
oh, I'm going to Turkey. And he's like, well, did you check the government embassy? And I'm like, yes.
Sounds like my dad
I'm
all
fine.
the way.
Yeah.
And have you ever like been on an adventure and kind of like met just by happenstance, just you being around a romantic experience? I mean, I'm just curious to know.
I mean, so I will say, like, it's kind of hard in the beginning whenever, and it comes down to like not even just the romantic relationships, but even like friends that you make while traveling.
Right.
If you're traveling like more full time, like I guess even for people who travel in a week, you can meet people while you travel, especially when you're solo traveling. You meet people and you almost are connecting with them and like telling them more about your current life than your closest friends back home. It's like if I'm traveling and I meet someone and I'm 3 months into the trip, like they were probably gonna know more about my life than my friends back home know.
Right.
So you're almost creating this bond with people where it's like you know a part of me that no one
else knows.
Not that I don't want people to know, but like I don't have the energy to share my entire life with people all the time.
Right, yeah.
And so like you're keeping like a part of you with these people, and like in return you learn about these people, and like maybe they you learn something about them, or they teach you something, or you experience a moment or a hard moment with them, and that stays with you. So like you have a piece of them, and it's
to
like
cherish.
Yeah, and
oh,
it's like,
I love that.
Within 5 days, I feel like I've met some people. I feel like I've known them my entire life. Like there was this girl that I was staying in a hostel. I stayed in a lot of hostels. So I was staying at a hostel. I was doing computer work, and this girl said she saw me, but I looked busy, so she didn't approach me.
Okay.
This was in Portugal. And I was just like, I'm going to go and I'm going to go have dinner, and I want to have dinner outside. I'm going to get a drink, and I'm going to have me a little people watching dinner moment. And
love
so
people watching, by the way. Love it.
This girl comes up to me. I had never noticed her. She's like, hey, oh my God, are you staying in the hostel? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, I saw you and I wanted to say hi. And I was like, do you want to sit and have dinner? And she was like, yeah, I would love to. And I was like, okay. She just saw me sitting there and recognized me. And this girl, I feel like by the end of the night, I felt like I had known her my entire life.
Wow.
And it was just like so cool. Like we're like the same person. We connected so well. It was so fun. Like we had us a whole night. And then turns out like she was living in Germany, and then I ended up having a plan change and I needed to go to Germany. She's like, please come stay with me.
Oh, wow.
Like, so she took me into her home.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And she like showed me around Germany for like the 3 days I was there, and just like a genuinely good, like you meet good people.
Yes.
And the same thing with like guys. Like I got very lucky that the guys that and it's also staying in hostels and like being a solo traveler, there aren't a lot of girls that solo travel that are doing like what I did. So a lot of the people that I meet, inevitably, they're guys.
Wow.
And so some majority of them are like, we're only in the same area for a day or two, so like we're hanging out and stuff, but like it doesn't become anything.
Of course,
but then there's some times where it does become something. Right. And it was hard, like with all this, to get involved with people and like feel like you know them, and then knowing we only have maybe 3 days together, and I might never see you again. And it's like knowing
so
like
you build the bonds, you build the connections, and then you have to depart.
Yes.
That's a form of like separation, you know, like.
So you're meeting the coolest people, knowing you might not see them again, and having to be okay with that, and having to be okay with knowing this is just a moment in time.
Enjoy it now, savor it, maybe put it in your journal, and then just carry it with you. But that's beautiful that you are experiencing those type of, not everyone has that story. So for you to experience good, genuine connections, that's good. That's like phenomenal.
I feel very lucky because I've heard a lot of horror stories. I do keep myself aware. I feel like I have good instincts as far as like gut feelings. Like I can tell in the first 5 minutes if I want to like continue to hang out with someone.
Oh,
like,
that's good.
You know?
Yeah.
And so when I find good people, I'm like, oh, let's go do like all the things. Let's go adventure.
It's time to move. Like I've already found, yeah.
Yeah. And then it's like time for them to go, or I have to leave or something. And it's like, you know, thanks to social media, like you're still able to keep in touch. Yeah. So that's cool. And it's like sometimes you realize you are in the same area and you can meet up. And so it's cool when that happens. But like there was this girl, I stayed in Turkey for 2 months, but in 1 month I stayed at the same place. I was like, at this point I'm tired of hopping around.
Right.
I need some routine. This girl was also staying there for like, she stayed for about 3 weeks. So we like just became so close. Her name is Marie. She's in Canada, and you know, we got so close. We had our own like little love story moments where we're like, oh my God, like this guy, like what is happening with this? Like, you know.
And then connection with that.
Yeah, we're connecting over that. We're like, I rented a scooter for the month. So like anytime we go into town, she hops on my scooter. We go and we go watch sunset. Like, you know, we have our time apart, but then like it just felt like a good friend. And then it was like time to leave, and it's like we might never see each other again. And now, of course, like there's some people you can make plans to hang out with them, but like I probably met hundreds and hundreds of people, and it's just not realistic.
Right. You know? But that's so good. And they're even going to be able to look back and, you know, through your success and say, wait, I know her. I've had a touch of her in my life. So that's good to hear that, you know, you are not only traveling, but you're leaving an impact on people's lives as you travel.
Now, touching on the guy situation more so than everything. So I think part of it, like me coming out of a divorce, you know, or coming into a divorce, I don't know you know what I'm saying.
You're right.
Coming out of that, coming out of that, I was like, I am not in the headspace to like, I'm not trying to go marry someone. Like, I'm just trying to like travel. If I meet cool people and something, you know, we vibe, cool. I'm being open-minded. But I think part of it also is like learning that, like, okay, sure, you can find your soulmate in Lafayette, Louisiana. That's not what I'm not saying. What I'm saying is, what are the odds that you find your one and only soulmate in Lafayette, Louisiana? Like, go explore a little.
And see what's out there.
Yeah, and so, you know, there might be, like, there are guys that like I said, they were all the guys that I came across were, like, very good people. Respectful. I'm very fortunate. None of them were, like, weird, crazy, anything.
That's so good to hear.
But there are things about each of them where it's like, I really like this aspect of this person, not a fan of this aspect of them. So I was able to, like, you know, realize the things that I like in a man, the things that I don't like in a man. Like, girl, the men in Europe, they cook for you. They all know how to cook.
Okay.
And I don't know how to cook. I'm like,
talking about flipping the wrist. Okay.
Yeah. There's a different, like, here in the South, like, it's kind of like the woman cooks, the guy, like, I'm not saying that's how everything is, but it's not common, like, that, you know, the men know how to cook. These men in Europe, they're like chefs. Okay. They know how to cook all these things. And then, like, they're just, I think also, like, coming from a small hometown in the South, like, these men are like, they're adventurous. They want to go do all these things. Like, I met this guy, Kevin, and it was cool because, like, he's also a photographer. So, like, I'm a photographer. So, like, you kind of just, like, realize, okay, if I were traveling with a guy that also is interested in the same things as me, like, that's huge because you're not going to get annoyed when I want to stop and take pictures or something.
Right.
But then
understand that.
But then he's, like, the type of be like, hey, I'm going to Morocco. Do you want to come? And I'm like, I love that.
Okay.
Like, you know, like,
awesome.
not because, like
because he can kind of speak your language. It's like, it's the things that you really don't have to explain.
I heard this thing once, and it was like, if you don't find someone who understands, like, your soul, then you'll spend your entire life trying to, like, translate it to them. Oh, it's something along that line.
That is so good.
But it's
like,
so
true. You have, like, I'm just thinking about my own relationship. Like, I don't have to explain the creative side. He understands because he's creative, you know. So understand you, and it's nothing that needs to be overly, hey, this is how I operate. Like, this is how it goes. Yeah. Having someone that understands is a huge part. I'm sure now moving forward in, you know, your potential relationship.
Now I have, like, Now, like, look, I've experienced I had the big, nice, fancy dream home. I had that. I had the marriage. I had all the things that you're supposed to do. Now I'm like, I'm not saying, because the perfect person doesn't exist. But I am saying that now I have things like, they have to, whoever I end up with, like actually with, needs to have a creative aspect of them.
Right.
They need to love travel. Like, now I have like standards, I guess, of like, you need to have these things, because if you don't have these things, we're not gonna be,
it's not gonna work. Especially if that's your career path, you know?
Yeah, you just want someone to like, you don't have to be the same person as me. We don't, you know, I want you to have your own things, but I need you to understand me. But also, I want you to want to come on trips with me. And I want us to like
explore together. Yeah, of course. Like, who wouldn't? Like, all those beautiful places you've been already. I mean, you want someone on your side. So,
like, guys are just fun to travel with. Like, they're like kind of crazy.
They go. Like, I love traveling with my husband, because it's like, oh, we could go on this. We could go, Scott, we could go do this. We could go on a helicopter. We could go do these excursions. And I love excursions. I love it. I mean, I'm trying to jump out the plane. Like, that's just me. I haven't done that yet. But when we do travel, I know, I saw your video. When we do travel, it's always like, it's fun. I mean, I don't want to sit in the house and sleep. Like, I can do that at home.
It's like, I think also that, because Anna Lee is kind of like, I'm very chill, mellow, but I can match the vibe. Right.
So, you can flow really well.
So, like, my friend Anna Lee, like, if we go somewhere and she's like starts dancing and stuff, it kind of gets me in like
the mood.
So it's like, if if there's a guy and they're like, oh, like, let's go do this and we can go do this hike, I'm like, yeah, let's go do that. Or like, you know, just like kind of like the higher energy is like cool, and like wanting to go do stuff. Like, I hate having to be the one, because I literally am a guy, like the guided travels. Like, I'm constantly telling people like, this is how you can travel. This is how you do things. You know, I'll plan everything. I'll do this. I'll do that. It's so nice when someone is just like, come on, let's do this. Like, you tell me what we're doing.
What to do, and I'm going. I don't have to think. Let's just roll. Yes,
like, I love that. Like, I want to be able to like go with the flow and like do spontaneous things, like I said.
I can't wait to keep in touch, because I know this next adventure you're going on is going to be beautiful.
It's almost like, now that I know, because I didn't know what to expect going into solo travel the last 7 months. And so now this is going to be like a 2.5, 3 month trip. It's like, it's smaller, so like, cool, but I know it's exhausting. Like, it's not all rainbows and sunshine. And I'm working a lot while I travel. So I'm like, I need to like, I'm mentally preparing. I don't even know if I'm recovered from the last thing.
Well,
but
hopefully you can take a day and just like sleep.
But I'm really excited. We have 3 group trips that I'm doing during that. So, and the people that we have booked for that, they're really cool. So that's exciting. But yeah, so we'll see what happens.
Awesome.
I don't know.
Well, can you tell our guests today like how they can stay in touch with you? Just give them like your handles and your websites, just so that way you can have people tuning in. You already do, but just my audience would love to tune in and support you and what you have going on. And of course I will, and share and just support you in the best way we can.
I appreciate that. So my handle across like social media platforms is The Guided Travels, not The Guy That Travels. I slur. It's The Guided Travels. That's across handles. Right now I'm on Instagram. I do have TikTok, but it used to be an art page if you scroll down far enough. I might start a YouTube soon, so if I do, it'll be that same name, where I can share more about like vlogs and like actually like what's happening, like more in depth, you know? And then I have my retreat business that I co-own with Anna Lee. It's called Bucket List Retreats. So it's on Instagram as bucketlist.retreats. We're about to be launching a new website on there. We're going to be giving away, once the website is launched, we're going to be doing a free flight hacker ebook. So like everything you need to know about how to find cheap flights, how to book with travel points, what is a travel credit card, you know, that's a whole world. So we share some stuff. I share stuff between that page and my page on like just useful things to know. If you want to join us on a group trip. then you can also do that for fun, I promise. And then going back to my personal page, I do post like travel guides. So like I have some that are posted on my page for free.
Right.
If you want to go to Hawaii, I have an Oahu guide on my page.
Ooh.
Tulum, I know we talked about
Yes.
that. Utah van life. So like I have some free resources on there, and I'm
Right.
trying to get more into like just being like adding more value to the community.
Right.
I feel like lately my thing is people are just like, my 2023 videos, they're just like, it's more so like giving people a push to actually travel.
Right.
So I try to do a little bit of that, just, you know, encourage people to like
Right.
live this life.
And when
know?
you posted that recap, I was like, okay, what are you doing? Start saving your coins so you can get out of here,
Yeah.
because it's motivating just
Yeah.
seeing that and showing behind the scenes and what it looks like. But also, you showed some of the hard parts too.
Yeah.
So that was
Girl,
good.
I'm still, that bank account is still recovering. I did some damage.
Some damage, but it's okay. It's going to elevate right back up. Yeah.
Gotta make money to
You do
spend
money to make
money.
it. Yeah, you do. And you're happy and you're thriving.
Yeah,
so
I'm happy.
just continue on. I'm just wishing you well and continue doing your thing, girl.
And same with you. I can't wait to follow along all your podcasts.
yes.
You're doing great already. Like,
Thank
this is
you.
amazing.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to, I'm gonna read your book.
Oh, I can't wait.
She got a book coming.
Yes, I'm so excited too about that. Like that took about a year. So when you work on something, of course, you know, it's like your baby.
passion,
Yeah, it's
like,
a passion.
passion projects.
So yeah, I can't wait to release that. And just remember, guys, everyone has a spark, which you have a spark, and it can be ignited at any time. Just continue to pursue it, ignite it, get around people that are fire starters, and you have
that.
no way that you won't succeed. Okay.
Yeah, love that.
Yes.
Thank
so
you.
Bye.
Bye.